Live from the studio, I'm Jimmy Selesky.
Perfect.
Kamala Harris. I am pitching that as an official nickname. I like it. I'm trying to make it a thing. I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be. Anyway, as we discussed on the last episode, there is a major war for the narrative in this country right now. And the current narrative coming from the left side of the aisle is, you love Kamala. You've always loved Kamala, remember? You never really voted for her in the first place. We don't talk about that much. But if you don't vote for her now, that is a massive threat to democracy. And while this approach may strike the average critically thinking person as retarded, the Democrats appear to be under the impression that it's just retarded enough to work. See, all those years of dividing and brainwashing the general public through corrupt and biased corporate media, higher education and academia, social media censorship, and virtually every other mainstream information outlet and forum you can imagine, they seem to be content with leaning into not the policies and state of the country that affect everyday Americans, but rather this sort of pseudo middle school mean girl campaign where Kamala is a vibe, the K-HIVE is thriving, JD Vance is weird, it is literal social suicide to vote for Trump, ew, gross.
It's brutal out here.
And more so than ever before in history, the Democrats have leaned whole hog, shamelessly, they have gone all in on the retard vote. So the question is, at this point, will it work? Well, it depends on what you mean by, will it work? If by that you mean, is Kamala Harris a viable candidate? Is there enough support and enthusiasm behind the Harris campaign to take out Donald Trump in a free and fair election? Well, to me, the answer to that question is a clear no. It's suffice to say that even without getting into the more extreme allegations of election meddling, that the sheer media information structure in this country alone is nothing short of election rigging. The blatant censorship, the blatant bias and control of certain stories, and the pushing of other stories to overtly aid one side of the political aisle, one particular campaign, while hindering another, is in and of itself election fraud. You cannot have true democracy in a society where accessibility to accurate information is suppressed to the public. Sure, people may be voting in a certain direction, so I guess by that standard alone, it is democracy. But if they're only voting because they've been lied to and not allowed to see more than one side of the story, then you don't actually have a democracy. And by those standards alone, which I believe are undebatable, this election, the 2020 election, the 2016 election, and probably a lot more elections that I don't care to get into today have all been rigged. It's really just a matter of how rigged. Now, do we want to go as far as to suggest that they will stoop to legitimate voter fraud? Probably, maybe. If you disagree with that, I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why that's the line for everybody. When the entire world and the Biden administration themselves has no problem acknowledging when an election is stolen in, I don't know, say Venezuela this week.
Let me say that the U.S. applauds the Venezuelan people for their courage and commitment to democracy by participating in this election in the face of repression and adversity. So we continue to call on Venezuela's electoral authorities to release full, transparent, and detailed voting results, including by polling stations as well. This is especially critical given that there are clear signs that the election results announced by the Venezuela's National Electoral Council do not reflect the will of the Venezuelan people.
Oh man, this election was obviously stolen. They stopped the count. They're hiding the true votes from the people. People are rioting in the streets, and rightfully so. They have to save their democracy. But when it happens in America, oh my God, there is nothing more of a threat to democracy than people questioning their own election. That's kind of weird. I guess it can only happen everywhere else but America. So excuse me for even bringing it up. The question for the Democrats is really, can we install, through any means necessary, this shadow administration, newly under the fresh face of Kamala Harris, for another 4 years, and convince the critically thinking people in this country that there were enough brats, there were enough suburban housewives to win the election yet again. Because if we can create the narrative that Kamala could win, that's all we really need to do when she inevitably does win. And this is obvious if you just look at the campaign they're running. I have never seen a political campaign that is less geared towards appealing to people's intellect, appealing to the concerns of everyday Americans, bringing people into the fold. There is not a single person on the planet who has been brought onto the K train, the K-HIVE, over the past 2 weeks of this campaign. Because it's not about that. This is not about winning an election, you have to understand. They are not concerned with getting Trump or Kennedy or even non-voters to vote for Kamala. This is about appealing to the lowest echelon of the Democratic base, the cheapest seats in the party, creating enough false enthusiasm, enough hype, an illusion of support behind the Harris campaign strong enough to convince you, me, and everyday thinking Americans that are paying attention that if she does inevitably win, if they are able to cheat their way into another 4 years, that it was actually possible. That's all it's about. There is no new information about Trump that is going to suddenly emerge in the next few months that is going to convince a whole new swath of people in this country who somehow managed to get this far without having an opinion on Trump to now realize that they hate Trump and be motivated to get up off the couch and vote against him. That doesn't exist. Likewise, there are no new swaths of people on the Democrat side. All the myths about how she's galvanizing the black vote and the people of color vote and women, and now a bunch of people who otherwise were never going to vote for Biden are now going to be inspired to go out to the polls and cast a vote for Kamala. They don't exist. Any person you see online going off about how revitalized they are about Kamala's candidacy, guess what? Every single one of them was already going to vote for Biden. You look at a picture of the Biden campaign voters, and then you look at a picture of the Harris campaign voters, and it's like that Office meme. They're the same picture. It's the same picture. They realize that the Democrat campaign under Biden was flailing. It was unsalvageable. And so what they have done is remove Biden from the equation. Not the picture. Biden is still the president. Your weekly reminder of that. Biden is still the president, but they removed him from the election picture and repackaged the same bullshit with the same base, the same amount of enthusiasm under a new face, and are going to try to convince you that it's different. And it's not. And don't let them lie to you like that. Don't let all the fucking drones online that suddenly their new word of the day is weird. It's amazing. There is no more accurate meme than that, the thing where they open up the back of the person's head and take out the old chip and put it in a new one. Basically saying like, this is what you care about this week. Forget about the thing we told you to care about last week. It so perfectly encapsulates what we're seeing among the Democratic voters right now. It's perfect. Because last week or 2 weeks ago, it was all about, look, we know Biden's not great, but remember, we're not voting for the person, we're voting for the policies. And remember, this is democracy is on the ballot, and we have to make sure that Trump never gets back into office. And then Biden steps down, and that's great. And now the new chip is, actually, we love Kamala, and Republicans are weird. You're weird. And now all you see when you go online, every comment section, weirdo Republicans, it's just like the word of the week. It's amazing that they're not like embarrassed when they all just parrot off the same shit. It is such a clear display of hive mind brainwashing that all of a sudden, this is the new angle, and they are all on board for whatever the fuck they're told to be on board for. And maybe they're right. There is a lot of weird stuff going on right now. I'm not sure how much of it has to do with J.D. Vance and the Trump supporters. Really, I'm not. I find it weird that a month ago, Joe Biden was the most qualified candidate to run for another 4 years in office. He has overseen the best administration in presidential history. And anyone who tells you that there is any level of cognitive decline or that he's mentally unfit to serve or run again is lying to you. It's cheap fakes. And then overnight, literally overnight, it was, holy shit, this guy's got to go. There's no way he can run for another 4 years. And then after a couple weeks of theater, they finally pushed him out. And during that week of theater, I found it weird that no one really was enthusiastic at all about Kamala being his replacement. There were a lot of names tossed around. Kamala was really not one of the ones that people were stoked about. The polls showed this as well. And then overnight, everyone loves Kamala. We love Kamala. The polls are going crazy for Kamala. She is the best. And anything that we said about her before doesn't even exist, actually. All that stuff that was said before, what are you even talking about? That's weird. That's weird how that suddenly happened.
We are here today to throw our support behind Vice President Kamala Harris. I'm clapping. You don't have to. It's a happy day. What can I say? Together, we...
It's weird that the former president and current frontrunner, Donald Trump, was literally shot at a rally like a few weeks ago by a 20-year-old lone gunman who had no discernible political motives whatsoever. Could have been anybody. Could have been. We can't find anything that suggests that he hated Trump any more than Biden or the next guy. It just happened to be Trump. And we also can't explain how he managed to work around the most elite security force in the world, the Secret Service, supposedly. We can't explain that either, nor do we have any interest in looking into it. In fact, we're basically just going to pretend that didn't happen. We're going to pretend that, no, of course, liberals are not enacting political violence. That's not a thing. This was a random thing. And also, what are you talking about? If anything, I just thought it was weird how big Trump's bandage was. And at this point, who cares? That's weird. That's weird. You know what's weird? When you have one candidate talking about the border crisis, inflation, the economy, the global conflicts across the planet, rising crime rates, homelessness, the drug epidemic, all the housing crisis, all the things that actually affect people, including myself. And then you have another candidate who is calling you weird. That's weird. Is that not weird? They can do nothing if not project. They're the ones who installed an undemocratically elected nominee for the presidency after lying to you for 4 years about the previous nominee until they couldn't anymore and forced him to step down. But you're the fascists, and you're the threat to democracy. This Manchurian candidate installed nomination is not a threat to democracy. In fact, that's the only thing that could save us from democracy is this completely undemocratic candidate. We're scared of Trump supporters committing political violence. You're doing that. We're scared of Trump prosecuting his political opponents. You are doing that. You're weird. They're weird.
Weird, buddy. You're weird.
This is what they're banking on. This has always been the play. The Democrats understand that there is a large contingency of people in this country that are highly educated, highly intelligent, but for one reason or another will never, ever vote Republican, and especially not for Trump. Those educated liberals are acutely aware of what's going on right now. They understand, whether they want to admit it to themselves or not, that this is obvious bullshit, that nobody supports Kamala. Nobody supported Kamala a week ago. That this entire process was completely undemocratic. But the Democrats understand that those educated liberals are going to vote for her anyway. Because the ideology is so strong. They've given up on speaking to any of the policies that concern you. Like, I don't know, the temperature of the earth is going to rise a half a degree over the next 1,000 years if we don't completely bankrupt the American economy. You know, things that keep the average person with a master's degree up at night. They're not speaking to that anymore. They don't have to. So instead, they're going to appeal to the uneducated vote, the uninformed vote. They're going to get Quavo to speak on stage. They're going to get Megan Thee Stallion to twerk at a Kamala rally for women's rights or whatever.
Let's get this done, Atlanta! I'm a savage, that is too nasty. Talk big, but my bank account bad shit. Good, but I'm classy, rich, but I'm ratchet. Haters kept my name in they mouth, now they gag. Bougie. It's a movie, I told that bro we gotta keep it, no leave me the room. I be playing the block and now it's hot. I'm too cheap, and I'm moving. I'm a savage, yeah, classy, bougie, ratchet, yeah, sassy, moody, nasty, yeah, hacking, stupid, what's happening, like Beyonce, like me.
They're gonna get Charlie.exe to tweet out that Kamala is brat. You know, so the average 20-something-year-old chick who, you know, loses her mind every time Billie Eilish whispers into a microphone. Oh my God, I'm literally screaming. No, you're not. No, you're not. But you are going to vote for Kamala. You already were going to vote for Kamala. So again, it's not about creating new voters. It's about getting the people that were already going to vote for Biden because they don't fucking know any better to now vote for Kamala because they don't fucking know any better. And now pitch this crowd that already existed as a new crowd that didn't exist before that's going to justify some type of comeback in the election in November. They don't give women the credit of seeing through the obvious facade that Kamala is some sort of historical moment for women's rights or you know, that she's a symbol of female empowerment despite having done nothing for women ever. They don't give people of color the credit for being able to discern that Kamala is obviously black when it's convenient, Indian when it's convenient, whatever it needs. If she's at a rally in Atlanta, we gonna do it in 2024.
And you all helped us win in 2020, and we're gonna do it again in 2024. Yes, we will.
And then she's somewhere else and she talks whatever they want her to talk like. They don't give that portion of the base the credit of seeing through all that. I do. I give you guys the credit, but I'm the bad guy. People that do give you the credit of seeing through this bullshit, we're the bad guys. Here's the reality. I think you do. I think you do see through it. I think that you're being told that you don't. I think that there is a massive campaign to convince you, me, and everyone in the country that there really are that many idiots in our ranks. But you know what? I don't believe it. And I hope you don't either. Nothing about this campaign is real. Nothing about this campaign is honest. Any illusion of enthusiasm or support for Kamala Harris is just that, an illusion. And it's just a matter of whether or not you're willing to believe it. I, for one, think it's pretty weird. And if that makes me weird, then I say, make America weird again. Live from the studio, I'm Jimmy Selesky. As always, peace.